Alright, this video is on section 8.1. It's the continued part of this. There's two examples I didn't put on the previous video, but I'm going to separate it and add it in this video. So we're dealing specifically with fractional equations and word problems. For our first example, this comes from page 230 in your textbook. It's example 8. We have a fractional equation that we're going to solve as a quadratic. So our function is 1 over x plus 3 equals 2 over x plus 2. Our first step is going to be to multiply by the LCD. What would be the LCD in this case? It's going to be x times x plus 2. It's just the two denominators that we have multiplied together. So let's start. We're going to multiply everything by that LCD. So I've got 1 over x times x plus 2 plus 3 times x plus 2 equals 2 over x, or 2 over x plus 2, sorry, times x plus 2. Now, here's where the fun happens, because we see we can cancel some things. So those x's cancel. So this term, we just have x plus 2. For this middle term, go ahead and distribute that. So that's 3x squared plus 6x. And this last term, the x plus 2's cancel. So it just equals 2x. Now, let's go ahead and combine like terms on the left and kind of rearrange it so we put our x squared first. Plus, let's see, 7x plus 2 equals 2x. You already know what we're going to do with that 2x. We're going to minus it over. So now we have the quadratic equation, 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 equals 0. Now, to solve this, we're going to go ahead and factor. So multiply the first term and the last term. Now we're looking for what multiplies to give us 6, but adds to give us that 5. So that's going to be 3 and 2, 3 plus 2. So we're going to rewrite that 5x term as 3x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 2. And then cut it in half. What can we pull out of the first two terms? It's going to be 3x, which leaves us with x plus 1. What can we pull out of the last two terms? It's going to be a 2, leaving us with x plus 1. So then our two binomials are going to be x plus 1, 3x plus 2. And then go ahead and solve those. So we've got x plus 1 equals 0. So in that case, x equals negative 1. And then the 3x plus 2 equals 0. So let's see, minus 2, 3x equals negative 2. Divide by 3. X is negative 2/3. So x equals 1, x equals negative 2/3 are your two answers. Alright, example 9 in our textbook is a word problem. We have a lumber truck that travels 60 miles from a sawmill to a lumber camp and then back in a 7-hour travel time. If the truck travels 5 miles per hour less on the return trip than on the trip to the camp, find its average speed to the camp. So we're trying to find, how long does it take it to get to the camp? If, it's 60 miles from the sawmill to the camp, and we know that on the ride home, it takes them 5 miles per hour less than on the way there. So let's kind of define some variables. Let's let v equal the average speed to the camp. Remember, this is in miles per hour. So then if v is the speed to the camp, and we know that on the way home from the camp, it's 5 miles less, on the way home, it's going to be v minus 5. So that is the speed home from camp. Or I guess he's not going home, he's going to the sawmill. Alright, we also know our handy distance formula. So distance equals rate times time. In our case, let's use v because we used v for the speed. So distance equals v times t. If we solve that for t, so we divide by v, this leaves us with t equals our distance divided by our speed. Now, we're looking for the time that it takes him to get to the camp. So let's kind of set up an equation real quick in words. We know that the time to the camp plus the time from the camp equals the total time of the trip, which we know that total time is 7 hours. So now, let's make up, kind of use an equation. This is why we solved our distance formula for t, because we're going to use that d over v part specifically for our equation. So, because that will give us the time. So d over v will give us the time to the camp. So we know our distance is 60, and our time to the camp is v, plus the time from the camp. So our distance, again, is 60, and our speed is v minus 5. This equals a total of 7 hours. This is going to be the equation that we're going to solve. Alright, the equation is 60 over v plus 60 over v minus 5 equals 7. The first step we're going to do is just like the step we did in example 8. We're going to multiply by the LCD. The reason we do this is it gets rid of the fractions and it makes it a quadratic equation, which is easier for us to solve. Our LCD in this case is going to be v times v minus 5. So let's multiply everything by that. This gives us 60 over v times v minus 5 plus 60 over v minus 5 times v minus 5, which equals 7 times v minus 5. So we cancel things out. That's gone, and that's gone. Let's go ahead and simplify. So we can distribute. Well, before we do that, let's write it all out. So the first term we're left with 60 times v minus 5. The next term is just 60v. And the last part is 7v times v minus 5. Now let's go ahead and distribute. That gives us 60v minus 300 plus 60v, which equals 7v squared minus 35v. Combine, oops, that's supposed to be a 60. Combine those two terms on the left. We've got 120v minus 300 equals 7v squared minus 35v. From here, I would bring everything to the right side of the equation instead of the left, because then we don't have that first term won't be negative. So minus 120v plus 300 and plus 300. This gives us that 0 equals 7v squared minus 155v plus 300. Now we factor this. So, do the 7 times 300. That gives us 2100. So the first term times the last term. So now we've got 2100. We're looking for factors of that we'll add to give us negative 155. So I did some guess and check on my calculator, and I got to negative 15 and negative 140. If you multiply those together, they give you positive 2,100. If you add them together, they give you negative 155. So we're going to rewrite our equation as 0 equals 7v squared minus 15v minus 140v plus 300. Alright, cut it in half. What can we pull out of the first two terms? Well, we can pull out a v. So 0 equals v. We're left with 7v minus 15. The last two terms were tricky, but we can actually pull out a negative 20, which leaves us with 7v minus 15. So then to write our two binomials, we've got the 7v minus 15 that are the same, and then we have the leftovers v minus 20. Alright, so we said we had 0 equals 7v minus 15 and v minus 20. So we set each of those equal to 0 and solve. So 7v minus 15 equals 0, and v minus 20 equals 0. So let's see, add 15, 7v equals 15, divided by 7, divided by 7. This gives us v equals 15 over 7. And the other one gives us v equals 20. So here are our two solutions. Now, we're not done yet. We had two solutions. We have v equals 15 over 7, and we had v equals 20. But what were we originally trying to solve in the problem? We were trying to figure out, find the average speed to the camp. So going to the camp. So one of these values won't work if you plug it in for v, because it would give you a negative value. And that's going to be this 15 over 7. If we plug that in for, remember v minus 5 was the trip home, or the trip from the camp, or speed actually. If we plug in 15 over 7 for v here, and solve to figure out, well, how fast was the driver going on the way home, this gives us negative 20 over 7. Can't have a negative speed. So this guy, this solution doesn't work. It gives us an extraneous solution. Now let's look at that v equals 20. So remember, that's going to be the speed on the way to the camp. So v equals 20 is going to be the speed on the way to the camp, and remember this is miles per hour. Now let's say we wanted to find out how long it took the truck to drive to the camp. So we know our original equation was 60v plus 60 over v minus 5 equals 7. Where 60v, that was our time, that tells you the time it takes the driver to get to the camp. 60 over v minus 5 tells you the time it takes the driver to get from the camp. 7 is the total hours. So if we plug in 20 for v here, we have 60 over 20 plus 60 over 20 minus 5, which gives us 7. So we've got 60 divided by 20 is 3. 60 over 20 minus 5, that gives us 60 over 15, which gives us 4. So now we have 3 plus 4 equals 7. So that means it takes him 3 hours to get to the camp, 4 hours to get home from the camp, 7 hours total. V equals 20, which tells you he's going 20 miles per hour to get to the camp.